Be'ezras Hashem Yisparach Erev Shabbos Kodesh Pashas Kisovish Nastovshin Pei Aleph. There's a moshel of this man who lived in a village far away from Warsaw. A story which Rabbi Shvadron would say over. He lived far away in this village, and in the village there was a man who was the agent for the lottery. That means in the big city in Warsaw, there they had the lottery, the raffle ticket, once every few months. And this man in the faraway village, he was the agent for the lottery. And he over there to ask the people who wants to play the lottery, it costed 2 ruble. And he would write down the numbers, and at the end he would send a telegram of the list of the names and the numbers to Varsha, to Warsaw, and there they would know exactly who played and who won the lottery. Now this agent in the village, in this faraway village, he had a friend, Nebuch, a very, very poor man. This man lived in such a hut. He didn't have a parnusa, and he went and said, look, I'm an agent for the lottery. I have an idea. Why don't you once play the lottery? It costs only 2 ruble, and maybe you'll make a few million. The man said, 2 ruble? If I would have 2 ruble, I'd be a rich man. He says, look, 1 ruble you got, I'll lend you another ruble. You can pay me back slowly. The main thing is I can write your name with the numbers, and like this you'll be able to have a chance to become a rich man, maybe even a millionaire. So the man gave him a ruble, lent him a ruble, and he wrote down his name with the numbers that he chose. And they sent eventually the entire list to Varsha when they was ready to do the raffle. And then this agent gets a telegram at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it says, the winner, this is the number of the winner who won all the jackpot of the lottery. So he looked through his list, who had these numbers. Oh, it's his friend, this poor man who never lives in that faraway hut on the end of the village. He won millions of ruble. So he says, what, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to wake him up? But at least he should at least go to sleep. He'll be able to sleep now with a light heart, knowing that he's a millionaire. So he decides he's going to get dressed. And it was cold in the winter. He puts on a fur coat. He trudges all the way over to the hut of this poor man. And he bangs on the door. And he bangs, wake up, wake up. The man opens up the window and he says, what happened? What's going on? He says, you heard, you just won 50 million ruble. Your numbers came up in Varsha. And the man looks at him and said, this is how you wake up a millionaire in the middle of the night? What a chutzpah that you have to wake me up like this. I'm a millionaire, I have 50 million ruble. And this is how you wake me up in the middle of the night? This is a person, within a few seconds, he already forgot who he was. He forgot the toivas they did for him. He just knows, I'm now a millionaire, you have to respect me. Now I'm a millionaire, you have to show respect for who I am. So this is says the Holy Parashat, says, Kisavoyu el haaretz. You're going to come to Eretz Yisrael, and maybe you'll forget Hashem. Your son become a millionaire. You'll have your houses, and your fields, and your kromim, your vineyards, and you may forget Hashem, the chesed from where you came. So therefore Hashem says, bring bikurim, and when you bring the bikurim, you say, Ribono Shel Olam, how much chesed you did for me. You took me out of Mitzrayim, and there we were Mitzrayim, and nitzak al Hashem Elokei Avosseinu. We cried out to Hashem to save us. Vayishma Hashem Eskeleinu, and you took us out, and you brought us to Eretz Yisrael, and now Baruch Hashem, we got a house, now I got the fruit. And this is in order ye should always remember the kindness of Hashem, and never forget, and never become like that man who straightway forgot the kindness his friend did for him. They say the holy Rabbi Rebbetzin of Satmar, she was in the Second World War. She survived the camps. She came to America. And a few years later in America, they saw her. She was eating potato peels. And they asked her, Rebbetzin, on the plate, potato peels on the plate. The Rebbetzin, was do potato peels on the plate? And she said, today I wanted to remember the days I was then in the camps, when I had nothing, and I lost my family, my parents. I was alone in the world. I didn't know what future I got. And all I had was I was eating potato peels. This was for me my wealth. This for me gave me support the whole time during the camps. But now I look around in America and I see, Baruch Hashem, Am Yisrael's growing, but the Midrashim, but the Knesset. I'm going to have a family. And such a gewaldige life in America. And I want to remember the Chesed Hashem, the days that I had only the potato peels to eat. This is a gewaldige Zach. How we see a person remembers when we're in Mitzrayim. Remember the times when it was difficult. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. She remembers Hashem took her out of the camps and gave her, Baruch Hashem, such a beautiful life, and to see the rebuilding of Am Yisrael in America and in the entire world. So we learn from this inyan of Bikurim to recognize the chesed of Hashem, to always appreciate the good Hashem gave us. You know, the Heilige Rav Dessler, he was on a bus returning from a chasna, from a Talmud in Yerushalayim. And it was a yeshiva bus. So he came up on the bus, all the seats were taken. So of course, the boy sitting right in the front, he stood up and gave his seat to Rav Dessler. Rav Dessler sat there, thank you very much for the seat, thank you. And as the bus travels out of Yerushalayim, you may know the turns that the bus take, and they go very fast. He turned to the boch and said, thank you very much again for the seat. And then further along, the bus made an emergency stop. I don't know if you traveled on a bus late in Eretz Yisrael, but this is very often, this is how the journey takes place. It's an emergency stop. And again, he turns around to the boch and says, thank you very much for the seat. So the boch said, but Rebbe, you already told me when I gave you my seat, you already told me thank you. Said the Heilige Mashkiach Rav Dessler. He said, the first time you gave me your seat, it was that now I can sit down for the journey. But then afterwards, when he took that turning, had I not been sitting or to be standing, I would have fell. And because you gave me a seat, I was able to sit, I didn't fall. So I have to thank you again. This wasn't in the first thank you that I told you. And then when you made an emergency stop, I would have fallen again. So again I have to tell you thank you. For each one I appreciate the seat more and more, the seat that you gave to me to sit. We see how the Gedolei Olam, the Heilige Rav Dessler, the Heilige Rebbetzin from Satmar, they always appreciated, never forgot the kindness that Hashem gave to them, or what the Bocher gave to them, the kindness somebody did for you, they always remembered. And not like that man who within a second became such a proud man that he couldn't recognize the Tavo from his friend and started already to insult us. This is how you wake up a millionaire. This is the idea, Rabbi says the Holy Medrash Tanchuma as follows, Gewaldig. In this week's Parashat, it says as follows, Tzofa Moshe Rabbeinu Beruach HaKodesh, Moshe Rabbeinu saw, V'ro shebeis HaMikdash osid lichoriv. Nowadays we don't have Bikurim. How do we come to Hashem? We bring fruits to the Beis HaMikdash. How do we show appreciation to Hashem for what He did? So Moshe Rabbeinu saw this problem. Moshe Rabbeinu saw the problem, and he saw that there would be a Churban Beis HaMikdash. V'abikurim asidim liposek, and the Bikurim will stop. We won't have a Beis HaMikdash to bring Bikurim. Omad ve'eskin Yisrael shiu mispalelim shloisha pa'omim b'chol yoyim. Moshe Rabbeinu, he decided, he brought the takon of Tefillah, Shachris, Mincha, Mariv. Lefi shechoviv, now it's in the Medrash says as follows, Lefi shechoviv Tefillah lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mikol ma'asim toivim u'mikol ha'korbanos. Or again, Lefi shechoviv Tefillah lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mikol ma'asim toivim u'mikol ha'korbanos. Gewaldig. What did they say? Moshe Rabbeinu saw, we won't have the opportunity. You know how beautiful it was to bring Bikurim? It was amazing. To bring Bikurim, it wasn't only the people that had fields of fruit. You didn't have to have a field of pomegranates. In your garden, you had a few trees of pomegranate, of olives, then of grapes. You would already start. From the beginning, you put such a thread around. Say, this was the first pomegranate. And all the way through the summer, you see this little, the the gemi, you see the thread that you put on the pomegranate. Oh, this is the pomegranate I'm taking to Beis Hamikdash. Oh, this is the olives I'm taking to Beis Hamikdash. Throughout the summer, you're preparing for your trip to the Beis Hamikdash. And then you didn't just put it in a bag and come to Yerushalayim. Hey, I got a few fruits. Where'd I put it? No. It didn't go like this. There was, a whole of Eretz Yisrael was divided into 28 groups. The whole of Eretz Yisrael, you belong to one of these 28 groups. When all your group was ready, so it could be a few thousand people, for everyone who has, or pomegranates, or wheat, or barley, or olives, or grapes, whatever it may be, everyone brought it what he had together. Everyone was carrying his special fruits that from the beginning of the summer he already paid attention to it, and already was looking out at that fruit saying, I'm bringing it to Beis HaMikdash. And today is the day you're coming to Beis HaMikdash with your fruit. And you would come and it said, "Betzapim akronis shel haporos bezov." They would put on the horns of the cows. They would put the horns of the oxen. They would paint it with gold to make, and they were following along, and they were playing the flute all along the way. Somachti boim beis Hashem neilech. Somachti boim. They were singing azoi, rejoicing, and finally arrived to Yerushalayim. The people of Yerushalayim would come out and greet them, say, Shalom Aleichem. Where do you come from? Beersheva. Shalom Aleichem, Yehudim Beersheva. And they would bring them all the way along with flutes and singing and trumpets, azoi, till Beis HaMikdash. And then they would come to the Holy Beis HaMikdash. And then they would come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, thank you for what you, not just thank for the pomegranate, but how did the pomegranate come about? I had nothing. I was in Mitzrayim and you took me out. I came to Eretz Yisrael. Gewaldig! Such a dveikos to Hashem. But today, nowadays, we don't have this opportunity. So what do? How do we show this dveikos and thank Hashem for everything? We as well come with people together. Where do we go? To the Beis HaMedrash, to the shul. And we walk into shul and we thank Hashem for the tovas He did. This is the union of Bikurim, that tefillah is thanking. And we realize without tefillah we have nothing. Without tefillah, without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't have anything. You give us chokhmah, you give us parnosa, you give us refuah. And we come into Hashem, we thank Him for everything He gave us. This is the idea of tefillah. It's like Bikurim, has to be like Bikurim. When we come to some medrash, we are like the Bikurim telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you for all what you're giving us, and thank you for you gave us. You know, they say, Rav Shach says in the beginning of Dav Yezri, that as follows. He asks a question, Kisovoi, if you pay a few psukim of brocha, Baruch Ato B'Viecho, Baruch Ato B'Tzeisecho, Baruch Tanacho, everything v'dangit. In the Klolos, there's lots of psukim, 98 psukim of Klolos. So everyone asks, well, it's not fair, what's going on? Says Rav Shach, because a brocha, for you to wake up in the morning and say, Baruch Hashem, everything is good, then you have an unmeasurable amount of brochas. That means every vein in your body and the heart is good and the brain is good and the eyesight, everything is good. And you're healthy and you got parnusa and you got a house and you got clothing, everything. You got unmeasurable amount of brocha. So brochas, you cannot say and you will have this and you will have that. Because if so, there'll be no end to the amount of brochas you're living with. Baruch Hashem, everything is good. You know what that is? That's kol hatoiv. But, so therefore Hashem said it bofen klali. Hashem said it in plural. Baruch ato b'viecho, you will have brocha and everything you do. That's it. That's all you can say. But klolos, if one parnosa doesn't go well, shoin doesn't go. It's shoin a klola. A klola is individual. Klola is that every one thing, then there won't be rain. Then you have to leave Eretz Yisrael. There's still lots of brachos taking place in your life, but one thing isn't good. And it goes worse and worse. But that's the idea. Klolos is not in plural, but rather it is an individual. It's each one in itself. So when we look back in the past year, we see how much millions of brachos we were zoicha to in the past year. Like Rabbi Victor Miller says, the Zecher Tzadik V'Rocha used to say that if, let's say, at the end of Ne'ilah last year, you would have a note from Shemayim that says, you will survive the year, you will have Parnosa this year, you'll be Zecher to all the great. Look back at the whole year. Imagine you would have a note saying everything that happened this year. You would have been delighted, and you had it by Ne'ilah. So now we know now what was written last year in Rosh Hashanah. So we should look back at all the good that Hashem gave us, and we come to Shul and we thank Hashem. Like we said, this is a Bikurim. The Ramban writes in Parshas Boy, he says as follows. He says, a person to recognize the yoidel elekov sheboroi. And he says, they will have a shul where they can gather. And they can thank Hashem. And they will be mefarsem in the world. We thank you, we are your bria, we are your creation, Hashem. This is the idea of tefillah. So Baruch Hashem, we learned from today the gewaldige Sachen of the man of the lottery. He thought within a second he forgot who he was. But we see from Rabbi Dessler, we see Rabbi Tznof Satmar, we see the idea that they always remember the Tovos of Hashem. That's a Bikurim. They came with such a simcha, such a gewalt. And this is the idea we come now. Moshe Rabbeinu saw there's no Bikurim. We come to Shul with simcha, with gewalt, just to end with a sheina moshel, a moshel for the Chovos Havovos writes. Says the Holy Chovos Havovos was a man, a king, a very mighty. He told his minister, I'm coming to you for lunch on, let's say, Ches Tammuz. So the man said, wow, thank you very much, a big honor to host the king. Comes home and he looks in his calendar and he sees Ches Tammuz. He has a tiol with his friends to go to Spain. Oh, well, I have to host the king. So he got problems. He decides, you know what? Doesn't matter. I won't be there. I'm going to go to Spain. But my sons will be there. My wife will be there. They will serve the king with the best food. I'm going to make sure to buy the best meat, the best wine. Outside down the best for the king. Sure, the king arrives and he comes out of his carriage and he says, and everyone says, Baruch Aboim, the king, come inside. And the sons of this man are receiving the king. King's looking around. Where's his minister? Sure, it doesn't matter. He walks in, he sits down, and he expects to see another seat for the minister. Says, and he starts to eat, and he says, tell me, where's the minister? Says, he went to Spain, but your Royal Highness, the king, everything you've got is here. We're here to serve you. He says, well, I came here that you should just serve me and to eat meat and wine. I came to be with the company of my minister, that he should be the one to be here to host me. Says the Heilige Reb Reuven Karelstein brings this moshel very often, and he says the Chovos Halvovos. Says the Chovos Halvovos. This is the idea. We come to shul, and very often we let our lips and our mouth, then and the shockling, everything begins to work. We're all starting. All the workers are beginning to work. But the neshama of the Yid says the Ribbonish, I don't want to see your workers, I want to see the neshama. The neshama isn't always there. So this is Be'ez Hashem, a psicha for us. Parshas Kisova is a parasha that we're now starting to be a lot of days in shul. We're starting with slichas Be'ez Hashem. We start Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We always remember to come with our neshama. Hashem's waiting, like Moshe Rabbeinu says, more than all the masim, more than all the korbanos, is to come to shul and say, B'riyos Secho Anochnu. Thank you so much for what you did, and Be'ez Hashem to be zoicha to a good and healthy and well year. Thank you very much for listening.